This organic growth feels more sustainable to them. They can trust feelings that develop naturally more than they can trust feelings that developed in response to intensity or pressure. They can believe in love that grew gradually more than love that seemed to appear overnight. The organic nature of this love also makes it more likely to last. When their feelings develop at their own pace, in their own way, they don't feel forced or artificial. They feel real and authentic in a way that allows the avoidant to trust them long term. They can watch their own feelings grow and evolve without feeling like they're being pushed into something they're not ready for. They can observe their own increasing attachment and affection without feeling like it's happening faster than they can handle. The balance you're seeking. Understanding that avoidants fall in love. When you give less doesn't mean becoming cold or withholding. It means finding the delicate balance between showing care and maintaining space, between being available and being independent, between expressing love and allowing room for it to be reciprocated naturally. This balance honors both your need to express love and their need to receive it in manageable doses. It allows you to be authentic while also being effective. It creates space for real love to grow between two people with different nervous systems and different attachment needs. The goal isn't to manipulate an avoidant into loving you by withholding love. The goal is to love them in a way they can actually receive, appreciate, and reciprocate. When you understand their internal world and honor their emotional needs, you create the conditions where authentic love can flourish between you. This approach requires patience, wisdom, and a deep understanding of how trauma affects the nervous system. It requires you to love someone in a way that might feel unnatural to you, but that feels safe and nourishing to them. It's an act of love to learn their language and speak it fluently. The transformation for both of you. When you learn to love an avoidant with this lighter touch, you both transform in beautiful ways. They learn that love doesn't have to be overwhelming or threatening. You learn that love doesn't have to be intense to be real. They discover they can receive affection without losing themselves. You discover you can love someone without losing yourself in the process. This transformation creates a more sustainable and authentic connection. Instead of a relationship built on intensity and need, you build a relationship based on choice and appreciation. Instead of love that feels desperate or overwhelming, you create love that feels safe and nourishing for both of you. The avoidant falls in love not because you've given them less, but because you've given them what they actually needed: space to breathe, room to choose, and the safety to love you back in their own way, in their own time. And in that space, real love, patient, understanding, and sustainable finally has room to grow. The avoidant falls in love not because you've given them less, but because you've given them what they actually needed: space to breathe, room to choose, and the safety to love you back in their own way, in their own time. And in that space, real love, patient, understanding, and sustainable finally has room to grow. There's a secret that avoidants will never tell you, something they might not even consciously realize about themselves. It's something so counterintuitive, so opposite to what we're taught about love, that most people completely miss it. And because they miss it, they end up pushing away the very person they're trying to win over. What if I told you that the moment you stop trying so hard to love an avoidant is the exact moment they start falling deeper in love with you? What if the key to their heart isn't more affection, more attention, or more emotional availability, but actually less? What if everything you think you know about winning someone's love is backwards when it comes to someone with avoidant attachment? This isn't about playing games or withholding love out of cruelty. This isn't about manipulation or emotional punishment. This is about understanding something profound about how their heart and mind work together. Something that goes against every romantic instinct you have, but something that could change everything about how you love them. The secret is this: Avoidants fall in love when you give them less intensity, not more. Once you understand why, everything about their behavior will finally make sense. Understanding their invisible emotional world. To truly understand why this works, we need to step inside the invisible emotional world of an avoidant and feel what they feel when you love them with full intensity. Imagine living your entire life with a nervous system that interprets love as danger, closeness as suffocation, and emotional availability as a threat to your very survival. Picture growing up learning that when you need someone, they disappoint you. When you depend on someone, they leave. When you show vulnerability, you get hurt. Your entire emotional system becomes wired to associate love with loss, intimacy with pain, and connection with the inevitable abandonment that follows. This isn't their choice, and it's not something they can simply think their way out of. It's a deep biological response that happens automatically. When emotional intensity rises, they want to love and be loved just as much as anyone else, but their system has learned to interpret the very thing they crave as the very thing that will destroy them. When you love them with constant texts, immediate responses, emotional availability, eager participation in deep conversations, and overwhelming affection, their nervous system doesn't register this as the beautiful gift it is. Instead, every cell in their body starts screaming warnings: too much, too fast, too intense, danger ahead. They often feel guilty about this response. They look at your love and know logically that it's something precious, something most people would treasure. They hate that they can't receive it with the joy and openness you deserve. They see couples who can be effortlessly affectionate and feel a deep sadness that they can't access that same ease with intimacy. This creates a painful internal conflict where they want to appreciate your love but feel overwhelmed by its intensity. They want to reciprocate your feelings but don't know how to do so without feeling like they're drowning. They're not rejecting you, they're trying to survive the emotional flood that your love, however genuine, creates in their system. The overwhelm that love creates. When you give an avoidant intense love, here's what happens inside their mind and body. Their nervous system floods with stress hormones. Their heart rate increases. Their breathing becomes shallow. Their mind starts racing with thoughts like, this is too much. I can't handle this. I need to get out of here. I'm going to disappoint them. This won't last. I don't deserve this. It's not unlike having a panic attack, except they've learned to hide it so well that even they might not recognize what's happening. All they know is that they need space. They need air. They need the intensity to decrease so they can function again. And the only way they know how to create that decrease is by pulling away, creating distance, or shutting down emotionally. This isn't about you not being lovable enough or not being the right person for them. This is about their system being overwhelmed by the very thing they want most. It's like offering water to someone who's been in the desert. If you give them too much too fast, their body can't handle it, even though water is exactly what they need. They're not trying to hurt you when they pull away from your love. They're trying to regulate themselves so they can continue to be present in the relationship. They're not rejecting your affection because they don't want it. They're stepping back because they need to process it in smaller, more manageable doses. Understanding this helps you see that their withdrawal isn't about your worth or the quality of your love. It's about their capacity to receive love without their nervous system going into overdrive. They need love like everyone else, but they need it delivered in a way their system can actually absorb without going into protection mode. The safety they find in emotional space. For avoidance, emotional space isn't rejection, it's regulation. When you give them room to breathe emotionally, when you don't immediately respond to every text, when you have your own life and interests that don't revolve around them, something magical happens. Their nervous system finally relaxes enough to actually feel their love for you. Think about it this way. When someone is constantly offering you something you're afraid of, all your mental energy goes toward managing that fear, rather than appreciating the offering. But when that same gift is available but not overwhelming, when it's there but not demanding immediate acceptance. You can actually consider whether you want it. This is what happens when you give an avoidant emotional space. Instead of spending all their energy managing their overwhelm and trying to regulate their nervous system response to your intensity, they can actually tune into their own feelings about you. They can miss you. They can appreciate what you bring to their life. They can feel grateful for your presence instead of anxious about your expectations. The space you create isn't emptiness. It's fertile ground where their feelings can grow naturally instead of being forced or demanded. It's the difference between a plant growing towards sunlight and a plant being placed directly under a heat lamp. Both provide warmth, but one feels natural and nourishing, while the other feels harsh and overwhelming. In this space, they can actually experience missing you, which is something they rarely get to feel when you're constantly available. They can appreciate your unique qualities without feeling like those qualities come with immediate expectations for reciprocation. They can think about you with fondness rather than anxiety. The paradox of pursuit and distance. There's a cruel paradox in loving an avoidant that most people never understand. The more you chase them, the more they run. But the more space you give them, the more they tend to come toward you. This isn't because they're playing games or being manipulative. It's because their attachment system is wired to maintain a specific distance that feels safe. When you're constantly trying to close the emotional gap between you, you're inadvertently triggering their need to widen it. Their system interprets your pursuit as pressure, and pressure activates their flight response. But when you step back, not out of anger or manipulation, but out of genuine respect for their need for space, something shifts in their internal world. Suddenly, they're not spending all their energy defending against what feels like emotional pressure. Instead, they can actually feel what life is like without your constant presence, and often they don't like how that feels. This is when their love has room to surface. When they're not busy managing their fear of being overwhelmed, they can actually experience missing you. They can feel the absence of your laughter, your insight, your unique way of seeing the world. They can appreciate your qualities without feeling like those qualities come with expectations they're not sure they can meet. The tragedy is that most people interpret an avoidance need for space as lack of love and respond by trying harder, giving more, pursuing more intensely. This creates a cycle where the avoidant feels increasingly overwhelmed and the partner feels increasingly rejected, when what's actually happening is a mismatch of nervous system needs. They need to know you're there, but they also need to know you're not going anywhere, even if they need time to process their feelings. They need to feel like they can come to you without being overwhelmed by your emotional needs. They need to trust that your love is steady and available, but not demanding or urgent. Their internal experience of your intensity. When you love an avoidant with full intensity, here's what they often experience internally: a mixture of gratitude and terror. They're grateful that someone sees value in them, that someone wants to love them, that someone is willing to invest emotional energy in them. But simultaneously, they're terrified that they won't be able to reciprocate at the level you seem to need. They worry constantly that they'll disappoint you, that they'll eventually hurt you by being unable to match your emotional availability, that they'll fail at being the partner you deserve. Your intensity meant as a gift often feels like a performance expectation they're not sure they can meet. This internal conflict is exhausting for them. They want to appreciate your love, but they're constantly worried about whether they're giving enough back, whether they're meeting your emotional needs, whether they're failing at being a good partner. The love you're offering becomes associated with pressure and anxiety rather than joy and comfort. When you give them less intense love, still genuine, still caring, but not overwhelming in its constancy, they can receive it without the accompanying anxiety about reciprocation. They can enjoy your affection without immediately worrying about whether they're giving enough back. They can be present with you without feeling like they're constantly being evaluated on their emotional performance. They can actually feel grateful for your presence without feeling guilty that they can't match your intensity. They can appreciate your care without feeling like they're failing at caring back. They can love you in their own way without feeling like their way isn't enough. The fear of disappointing you. One of the most painful aspects of being avoidant is the constant fear of disappointing the people they care about. They know they struggle with emotional availability. They know they need more space than most people. They know they can't always meet the emotional needs of their partners in the way those partners deserve. When you love them intensely, this fear of disappointment becomes acute. They worry constantly that they're not giving you enough, that you'll eventually get tired of their limitations, that you'll realize you deserve someone who can love you more openly. This worry creates anxiety that makes it even harder for them to be emotionally present and available. They see your emotional generosity and feel ashamed that they can't match it. They witness your openness and feel guilty about their walls. They observe your consistency and feel bad about their need for space. Your love becomes a mirror that reflects everything they think is wrong with them. But when you love them with a lighter touch, when you show care without overwhelming intensity, this fear diminishes. They don't feel like they're constantly failing at meeting your emotional needs because you're not putting intense emotional demands on them. They can actually enjoy your company without the background anxiety about whether they're being a good enough partner. This reduced anxiety allows their natural affection for you to surface. When they're not busy worrying about disappointing you, they can actually focus on appreciating you. When they're not stressed about meeting your emotional needs, they can tune into their own feelings about you. The authenticity of earned connection. There's something deeply meaningful to avoidance about feeling like they've earned someone's love rather than being overwhelmed by it immediately. When you give them less intensive love, when you make them work a little bit for your attention and affection, it feels more real and trustworthy to them. This isn't about playing games or being manipulative. It's about understanding that avoidants often struggle to trust things that come too easily. They've learned that when something seems too good to be true, it usually is. When love is offered without any effort required on their part, their system becomes suspicious rather than grateful. They've often experienced love that was conditional, love that was withdrawn when they couldn't meet certain expectations, love that turned into disappointment when they couldn't be who someone needed them to be. So when love comes without conditions or expectations, it feels almost too good to be true. But when they have to reach for your love a little bit, when they have to earn your time and attention through their own initiative and effort, it feels more solid and trustworthy to them. They can believe in love they've worked for in a way they can't believe in love that's simply handed to them. This earned quality makes their feelings for you feel more authentic to them as well. When they choose to pursue you rather than being pursued, when they initiate contact rather than always responding to yours, when they make effort rather than receiving effort, they can trust that their feelings are real rather than just responses to external pressure. The nervous system reset that changes everything. When you pull back your emotional intensity, you give an avoidance nervous system a chance to reset. Instead of being in constant low-level fight or flight mode in response to what feels like emotional pressure, they can return to a more regulated state where love actually feels possible. In this regulated state, they can access feelings that were buried under anxiety and overwhelm. They can feel gratitude for your presence in their life. They can experience genuine affection without the accompanying fear. They can imagine a future with you without immediately panicking about loss of independence. This nervous system reset is crucial for their ability to love you back. When they're constantly activated by intensity, all their emotional energy goes towards self-regulation and protection. But when they feel safe and regulated, that energy can be redirected toward connection and affection. The reset also allows them to see you more clearly. When they're not busy managing their response to your intensity, They can actually observe and appreciate your qualities. They can notice your kindness, your intelligence, your humor, your unique perspective on the world. They can fall in love with who you are rather than being overwhelmed by how much you love them. In this calmer state, they can also access their own capacity for love. When they're not defending against emotional overwhelm, they can actually feel their own affection, their own appreciation, their own desire for connection. They can discover that they do have the capacity to love. It was just buried under layers of nervous system activation. Their deep gratitude for understanding. When you demonstrate that you understand their need for emotional space, when you love them in a way their nervous system can actually receive, they feel a profound gratitude that they often can't express directly. They're grateful that someone finally gets it, that someone can love them without making them feel overwhelmed or anxious. This gratitude often translates into deeper affection and appreciation. They start to see you as someone who truly understands them, someone who can love them as they are, rather than as they think they should be. This understanding creates a safety that allows their love to grow naturally. They begin to trust that you won't pressure them beyond their comfort zone, that you won't make demands they can't meet, that you won't punish them for being who they are. This trust is the foundation that allows them to open up gradually and authentically. They feel seen and accepted in a way they've rarely experienced before. Instead of feeling like they need to perform or pretend to be more emotionally available than they are, they can relax into being themselves. This acceptance creates the psychological safety that's necessary for real intimacy to develop. The organic growth of love. When you give an avoidant the space they need, their love for you grows organically rather than defensively. Instead of their feelings being a response to external pressure or expectation, they develop naturally from their own appreciation of who you are and what you bring to their life. This organic growth feels more sustainable to them. They can trust feelings that develop naturally more than they can trust feelings that developed in response to intensity or pressure. They can believe in love that grew gradually more than love that seemed to appear overnight. The organic nature of this love also makes it more likely to last. When their feelings develop at their own pace, in their own way, they don't feel forced or artificial. They feel real and authentic in a way that allows the avoidant to trust them long term. They can watch their own feelings grow and evolve without feeling like they're being pushed into something they're not ready for. They can observe their own increasing attachment and affection without feeling like it's happening faster than they can handle. The balance you're seeking, understanding that avoidants fall in love when you give less, doesn't mean becoming cold or withholding. It means finding the delicate balance between showing care and maintaining space, between being available and being independent, between expressing love and allowing room for it to be reciprocated naturally. This balance honors both your need to express love and their need to receive it in manageable doses. It allows you to be authentic while also being effective. It creates space for real love to grow between two people with different nervous systems and different attachment needs. The goal isn't to manipulate an avoidant into loving you by withholding love. The goal is to love them in a way they can actually receive, appreciate, and reciprocate. When you understand their internal world and honor their emotional needs, you create the conditions where authentic love can flourish between you. This approach requires patience, wisdom, and a deep understanding of how trauma affects the nervous system. It requires you to love someone in a way that might feel unnatural to you, but that feels safe and nourishing to them. It's an act of love to learn their language and speak it fluently. The transformation for both of you. When you learn to love an avoidant with this lighter touch, you both transform in beautiful ways. They learn that love doesn't have to be overwhelming or threatening. You learn that love doesn't have to be intense to be real. They discover they can receive affection without losing themselves. You discover you can love someone without losing yourself in the process. This transformation creates a more sustainable and authentic connection. Instead of a relationship built on intensity and need, you build a relationship based on choice and appreciation. Instead of love that feels desperate or overwhelming, you create love that feels safe and nourishing for both of you. The avoidant falls in love not because you've given them less, but because you've given them what they actually needed: space to breathe, room to choose, and the safety to love you back in their own way, in their own time. And in that space, real love, patient, understanding, and sustainable, finally has room to grow.